Imagine for a moment a massive cliff standing tall on the edge of the ocean. Over time, the relentless waves, the subtle but consistent winds, and the ever-present forces of nature begin to wear away at the cliff. Year by year, the erosion continues. It happens so slowly, so gradually, that to the casual observer, it's barely noticeable. But after years of wear and tear, one day, the cliff collapses. This process of gradual erosion is a powerful reminder of how subtle forces can slowly but surely lead to destruction. The world around us is like that cliff. The forces of darkness have been steadily eroding the moral and spiritual foundations of our society for decades. These forces have been steadily preparing the way for the Antichrist, eroding anything that stands in the way of his rise. Why do you think Bibles were removed from schools, and we now see generation after generation of godless teens and young adults? Why do you think there is an attempt to remove the Bible from society? The erosion is slow, almost imperceptible at times, but it is happening. Today, I want to ask you, do you know what is happening? Do you feel the erosion beneath your feet? Do you realize that the world is being prepared for the beast, for the Antichrist? Make no mistake, the events we see unfolding around us are not random. They are calculated, they are strategic, they are part of a plan to bring about the rule of the Antichrist, the beast spoken of in Revelation 13. Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 17. He also forced everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on his right hand or on his forehead, so that no one could buy or sell unless he had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. The world is being prepared for this very moment. You might not see it directly. You might not recognize the signs immediately, but just like the cliff being eroded, it is happening, slowly but surely. And for decades, the world has been slowly prepared for a time where you will not be able to buy or sell without the mark of the beast. The groundwork is being laid, the stage is being set, and you need to know that the powers that be are preparing us and the world for what is to come. The systems, technologies, and ideologies that are being advanced in our world today are not random occurrences. They are all part of a larger plan to prepare the world to receive the Antichrist and the power he will wield. Let's begin by examining one of the key ways in which the world is being prepared: globalization. For decades, we have witnessed the steady rise of globalization. Economies are becoming more intertwined. Political systems are merging. Borders are dissolving. Nations are increasingly collaborating on a global scale. But make no mistake, globalization is not just about economic progress or technological innovation. It is paving the way for a one-world government, a system that the Antichrist will one day rule over. Revelation 13 speaks of a beast who will have power over all people, nations, and tongues. How does such power come into being? Through a united, globalized system, a world without borders, a world where individual nations relinquish their sovereignty in the name of peace, progress, and prosperity. Brothers and sisters, this one-world system may seem appealing. It may promise peace and stability, but it is a system designed to be controlled by the beast. Globalization is not just economic, it is spiritual, paving the way for the Antichrist's rule. Take, for instance, in July 2024, the global tech outage caused by a software update malfunction at the cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike. It becomes strikingly evident just how interconnected our world has become through the rise of globalization and the technological advances of the past few decades. This outage, which spread chaos across the globe, grounding flights, disrupting hospital operations, halting banking systems, and even affecting emergency services, demonstrates how a single point of failure can ripple across the world, affecting millions of people in multiple industries. This was not an isolated incident, but a global event that showed us how fragile our interconnected systems are. Imagine for a moment how quickly the world was brought to its knees by a software glitch. Airlines like American, Delta, and KLM were forced to ground flights, hospitals were unable to perform surgeries, and even essential emergency services like 911 in parts of the United States went offline. Retailers couldn't process payments, news networks went off the air, and stock exchanges experienced disruptions. All of this was triggered by a single update, a mistake, not even a cyber attack, and yet it had far-reaching consequences. This event is a wake-up call to the reality of the interconnected global system we now live in. The layers of dependency created by globalization and technology mean that any failure, no matter how small, can cascade into a global crisis. Or any decision, no matter how small, can cascade into a global decision. This interconnectedness reveals a world where one single point of failure can trigger shutdowns across the globe. What happens in one part of the world can literally paralyze systems on the other side of the world. This is the new reality we live in, where every facet of our lives is linked through complex technological systems. This eerily parallels the prophetic visions of Revelation 13, where the Antichrist will exert global control. We are already seeing how the systems are in place for such centralized power to be a reality. The world is being prepared. The recent tech outage serves as a stark reminder of how quickly the world can be brought under a singular authority when everything we depend on is so tightly woven together. It shows us just how close we are to the fulfillment of these prophetic warnings. The technology that surrounds you is being used to prepare you for the rule of the beast. For example, did you know that your vehicle is now one of the most advanced surveillance tools you own? In the past decade, vehicles have become increasingly connected to the internet, and their ability to record data about us has skyrocketed. Your car now knows a lot about you, where you go, how long you stay there, and even your driving habits. It can track your routes, your speeds, your seatbelt settings, and even gather biometric information about you. The data collected by vehicles can be used to track your every movement, your every decision, and your every preference. And it's not just vehicles. Facial recognition technology is on the rise. Cameras equipped with this technology are becoming more common in public spaces. They can identify and track you wherever you go. Some countries are even developing gait recognition technology, where cameras can identify you just by the way you walk. What does all of this mean? It means that the world is being prepared for a time of total surveillance and control, where your every move can be tracked and monitored. This level of control is unprecedented in human history, and it is precisely the kind of control that the Antichrist will use to enforce his rule and implement the mark of the beast. The desire for peace and security. Now I want you to think about the times we are living in. Conflicts are rising all around us. Wars, political unrest, economic instability, pandemics, and natural disasters seem to be increasing in frequency and intensity. The world is in turmoil, and people are desperate for peace and security. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3, the Bible warns us, while people are saying peace and safety, destruction will come on them suddenly, as labor pains on a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. The Bible makes it clear that the Antichrist will come during a time when people are desperate for peace and security. Growing conflicts, wars, and global instability are causing people to welcome a leader who will promise to bring order out of chaos. Imagine this for a moment. A charismatic leader rises up, offering solutions to the world's most pressing problems. He brings peace to the Middle East. He resolves conflicts in Eastern Europe and Asia. He ends the global refugee crisis. He promises to wipe out world hunger and eliminate poverty. He even offers to cancel the massive national debts that are crippling many countries. But there's a catch. In order to benefit from his solutions, you must take his mark. You must pledge your allegiance to him. You must comply with his system of control, where you can neither buy nor sell without his approval. Can you see how the world is being prepared for this? Can you see how the turmoil and chaos in the world are creating the perfect conditions for the Antichrist to rise to power? Another way the world is being prepared for the beast is through the rejection of the Bible and the rise of spiritual deception. We live in a time when the Bible is being increasingly pushed out of public life. Prayer has been removed from schools. Biblical morality is ridiculed and rejected. The very foundation of Western civilization, which was built on biblical principles, is crumbling. The sobering reality is that the average person walking through life today has little to no knowledge of biblical eschatology. They are unaware of the prophecies that warn of the coming Antichrist, and they have no idea what the book of Revelation says about the end times. For most, these prophetic truths are nothing more than stories from an ancient text they have never read, let alone understand. They do not know that one day a figure will rise, deceiving the nations, uniting the world under a false promise of peace and prosperity, and will demand their allegiance through a mark that controls all buying and selling. They are blissfully unaware that the decision to take this mark will have eternal consequences, as it signifies their worship and loyalty to the Antichrist. The average person does not understand the gravity of this decision. They will see it as a solution to their immediate needs, economic security, peace, and stability, but they will not comprehend the spiritual repercussions. The allure of the Antichrist's promises will blind them to the truth, and without the foundation of God's word to guide them, they will be easily led astray. This is why so many will accept the mark, not realizing that in doing so, they are sealing their fate. Unfortunately, many Christians who know the Bible are sometimes naive in thinking that the average person under stress or pressure will naturally recognize the Antichrist as evil or understand the dangers of taking the mark. But this is not the case. Without biblical knowledge, people will be deceived, thinking they are doing what is necessary to survive, without realizing they are sacrificing their souls. This is why the warning is so urgent. Time is running out, and the average person remains in the dark, unaware of the eternal consequences of their choices. And as the world moves further and further away from the Bible, people are becoming more vulnerable to deception. The further a person is from the truth of God's word, the more likely they are to believe the lies of Satan. The Bible tells us that in the last days, there will be a great falling away, a time when many will abandon their faith and embrace deception. 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 3. When I say that you are being prepared, I'm not referring to Bible-believing Christians who are grounded in the truth of God's word and are aware of the signs of the times. I'm talking about the average person who has no idea what is happening. The average person who is being slowly conditioned to accept the Antichrist without even realizing it. The world is being desensitized to sin. We are being bombarded with messages that normalize immorality, that glorify greed, that celebrate violence, and that promote selfishness. The more desensitized we become, the more susceptible we are to the deceptions of the Antichrist, the coming of the Antichrist. So, how are you being prepared? You are being prepared through globalization and the rise of a one-world system that the Antichrist will rule. You are being prepared through the increase in surveillance and control as governments and corporations track your every move. You are being prepared through the desire for peace and security as global conflicts and crises make people willing to accept anyone who promises to bring stability. And you are being prepared through the rejection of the Bible and the rise of spiritual deception as the world drifts further and further from God's truth. The powers that be are preparing the ground for the arrival of the Antichrist. The systems, the ideologies, the technologies, they are all being put in place to bring about his rule. And when he comes, the world will be ready. The stage will be set. The world will welcome him with open arms, thinking he is the solution to all their problems. Stay awake and watchful. Brothers and sisters, the world is being prepared for the beast. The water is heating up. The temperature is rising.